Hello, my name is Dick Bylsma. I am the Director of Dairy Sales for the National Farmers Organization. Today I want to talk to you about the dairy industry and spend a little time on a unique proposal that we, the National Farmers, have put together to help address a developing problem that we see within our industry. Let's start our program. We are in the fifth year of very low milk prices. We are used to milk prices cycling from very low milk prices to very high milk prices. But the normal cycle is normally 2 to 3 years. Now we are in our fifth year of low prices, and there's no relief in sight. And this trend is actually longer than a 5 year trend. Over the last 20 years, we have not seen dairy prices keep pace with other prices and other costs within our industry. This has stressed our dairy farmers tremendously. So today I want to talk about why we have these low prices and what these low prices are doing to our industry and more specifically to our farmers. It really is a simple issue of supply and demand. We are producing more milk than the demand for milk requires. These low prices are the cause of having too much milk in the marketplace. If you look at the chart, you can see that we have seen consistent, steady increases in our milk supply in the United States for the last 10 years, a 13% increase in milk production in just the past 10 years. The really startling fact is that we are producing all of this extra milk on 94% fewer farms than we had just 48, 49 years ago. Today we have less than 40,000 dairy farms in America. In 1970, we had over 670,000 dairy farmers in America. And our own USDA projects that by the year 2036, there will be fewer than 18,000 dairy farmers left in the United States. This slide illustrates what we're concerned about. You can see that our smaller dairy farms, those dairy farms with less than 50 cows, over 2/3 of those dairy farmers have went out of business in the last 17 years. While the very large dairy farms, those with more than 2,000 cows, have increased by over 268%. This slide tells you why we are seeing this change. If you look closely at this slide, it will tell you the whole story. Look at the dramatic difference in costs between a smaller family farm and the very large corporate mega farms. There's over a $4 difference just in operating costs between a small farm and a very large farms. Based on what you see on this slide and the current milk prices, the smaller dairy farm today is paying for the privilege to milk cows, while a very large corporate farm is probably cash flowing and may even be making a profit. By the way, these numbers were produced by the USDA to show the cost of production based on dairy size. These numbers are very current. They're for the processing year of 2017 and were released last October. The question we have is, will this trend stop? As I mentioned earlier, the United States Department of Agriculture predicts that by the year 2036, there will be fewer than 18,000 dairy farms in America. In an article I recently read by Jack Britt in the Horge Dairyman, published in April 25, 2017, he predicts that there will only be between 1,300 and 1,900 dairy farmers left in America by the year 2066, in 50 years from today. This trend of smaller farms going out of business and larger mega farms absorbing their cattle and their property will not change unless we make a change to the system. Historically, all the programs that have been put out by the United States Department of Agriculture to help limit the supply of milk have accelerated the demise of the smaller farmer. and increased the trend of mega farmers to get bigger and add production. It's simple mathematics. A farm price that is high enough to sustain a smaller dairy farm encourages a large mega farm to add on production and make an incredible amount of profits. It stimulates massive expansion on the very large dairy farms. There's another issue that must be addressed by this trend of having all very large mega farms and very few of them. There's a biosecurity issue that must be addressed if we congregate all of our dairy farms on just all of our dairy cows on just a few farms. Whether we have a problem that is man-made or a act of nature, taking out just a few of these mega farms could jeopardize our nation's food supply. And another issue we would like to point out is that in a recent national survey conducted by Eurofins, a professional marketing group out of Minneapolis, it shows that 93% of consumers across the country say it's important to support family farms. 93% of those people surveyed say that the family farms benefit the local community. With that knowledge in hand, we must protect this American treasure. We must provide the consumers with the milk that they really want. What is our program? What is our proposal? It's actually quite simple. We're proposing to modify the existing federal milk order system to include a two-tier pricing premium, whereby each dairy farmer would receive a premium on his first level or tier of production. How does our program work? We're proposing we would pay, for example, a $4 premium on the first million pounds of production on each dairy farm in America. We then reallocate the remaining money to the other farmers and basically produce a premium for the smaller farmer. One important note here is that our program does not increase cost to consumers. So let me explain how our program would work. For over 90 years now, we have used the federal order system to price raw milk. For over 90 years, the federal order system has recognized the different values of milk based on how it's used. The federal order system has recognized that milk that goes into the bottle is worth more than milk that's used to make butter or powder. The federal order system has recognized that milk that's used to make yogurt or ice cream or cottage cheese is worth more than milk that's used to make hard cheese. Our proposal simply states that if the federal order system can recognize the different values of milk based on how it's finally used, they can recognize the different cost to produce that milk in the first place. Let me explain specifically how our proposal would work. This is an actual federal order pool for the month of June 2018 for the Central Federal Milk Order number 32. If you look at this slide, you can see how a federal order pool works. We collect the money for the pounds of milk based on class on the top of the chart. We add all that together. We do a few housekeeping issues where we revalue some inventory. We add the schematic sale values, and we come up with $244 million, which we use to pay our farmers. We then take out the value of the farmer's butterfat, protein, schematic cell solids, and other solids and pay the farmer. We come up with a 32-cent, what we refer to as a producer price differential. As you can see on this slide, based on the federal order system, every farmer within a federal order system receives the exact same price for his milk if his components are the same, regardless of the size of the farm. If you look at this slide, the farmer that's milking 120 cows receive the exact same price for his milk as the farmer milking 2,400 cows. We realize these prices are through the federal order system, and they are before any competitive premiums that might be paid, which actually probably make the situation worse. This slide shows you what the current margins are based on the USDA's actual cost of production based on size of farm and our actual federal order prices for the month of June 2018. As you can see on this slide, the farmer milking 120 cows is losing money before he even covers his valuable costs, while the farm milking 2,400 cows is actually making a fairly healthy margin per cow. Now let's incorporate our proposal into the same federal order system example that I used before. This chart shows you the exact same federal order, the same numbers, the same pounds, the same prices, only on the bottom you can see where we're incorporating our $4 Tier 1 adjustment. We're now taking that money out of the pool to pay farmers as well. I did this calculation based on the national average size dairy farmers and applied it to this federal order. Now you can see what our prices have done based on the size of the farm. The smaller farmer, the gentleman that's milking 120 cows, received a 12% increase in his pay price, while the very large farmer only received a 6% decrease in his pay price. Look at this slide. Look at how our margins are more in balance. Our margins are more in line. We went from a situation where the very small farmer was losing money to where he can now compete with the very large farmer. We ran several analyses using different levels of Tier 1 adjustment, different prices for Tier 1 adjustment. And I wanted to show you this slide for a moment. Look at the two columns, the one in red and the one in blue. The one in red is our current margin per hundredweight line. Again, the smaller guy losing money before he even covers his variable costs. The big question that everybody's going to have is, can this be done and will this be done? Recently, Brad Rock, the director of the Dairy Division for the National Farmers Organization, and I reviewed our program with the market administrator of the largest federal order in the United States. We went through the entire program. We explained why we want to do what we want to do. We explained what we were going to do, how we were going to do it, and we showed him our slides and our examples. We asked him to verify the accuracy of it, and at the end of it, we asked him one very important question. Could the federal order system regulate this program? He didn't hesitate a second when he responded and said, absolutely. This would actually be an easy program for us to administrate. He did caution us that there would be some changes that would be required to the federal order system if our program went into place. The first change would be we would have to require that the entire country be regulated under a federal order system. Either one federal order for the entire country, or we'd have to expand the current existing federal orders so that there would be no areas that are not regulated. If we had unregulated areas, very large corporate mega farms would simply move to these areas so they wouldn't have to share in the federal order pool. In addition to regulating all areas of the federal order system, we would have to eliminate what's called depooling. Under the current federal order structure, a company can opt to depool their milk that goes to a non-pool plant. Sometimes this happens when the prices rise dramatically and the cheese factories would actually have to pay money into the pool instead of drawing out of the pool. They simply opt to depool and don't share into the pool when it's not to their advantage to do so. These two changes would be required. So let's recap. Our program levels the playing field for all size dairies. The current situation we're in is where a small dairy farmer could not stay in business if he competes with a very large farmer on the same business. So again, we are leveling the playing field with our program. Secondly, our program does not require any money from the government. We are using the existing federal order system to regulate and administrate our program. And those systems are in place and could regulate our program with virtually no additional costs. Thirdly, our program is not costing consumers any more money. We are not changing the mechanisms that are in place now to determine the class milk prices. Processors will not pay any more for the milk they buy based on the class they use it on. And lastly, and most importantly, our program keeps rural communities strong. Our program helps the family farmer stay in business if that's what he chooses to do. It gives his children and grandchildren the opportunity to stay on the farm and keep the farms that grandpa and grandma or great grandpa and grandma may have bought. Our program is more than just an economic program. It also has social implications where we need our rural farmers to keep our rural communities strong, keep our nation's milk supply safe and wholesome, and keep our country strong. I thank you for the time, and we ask that you become involved in our program and help support it.